joining in. Happy to see you here. We're going to be getting into it right away, just as soon as we get all these pieces in place and make sure that all the tech is lined up and running as well, which is obviously very important. So, welcome. My name is Doyle Bueller. I'm going to go into an introduction very shortly. Just want to welcome you all here while we get started and take a seat and hopefully ask some questions as well along the way. And looking forward to being able to guide you on that digital journey, that digital expedition that a lot of businesses need to really kind of step up their game. And that's what's really important and what I'm going to be covering today in this web class as well. So it's not a sales pitch. It's not. It's nothing to buy. It's just some good old classic information about how we can actually utilize and leverage digital for our business. We've seen a lot of shifts coming up in the last 9 months, 10 months now. And the amazing thing is that there's been a lot of successes in that same time period. We've seen a lot of failures, a lot of businesses going under, but guess what? You can market and do sales and evolve during a crisis and during an economic downturn, which is really important. So, all right, so let's get into this. Get everything rolling. If you do have questions along the way, please feel free to ask. If you're watching this live, I can't actually see comments and questions, but feel free to ask, and then I'll go back and I'll be able to answer them as well as we get into it. So looking forward to getting this up and rolling and on the show as well. So I always like to start with this, but the clock is ticking, right? It's November 2020. And I've been saying this for months. Each month is a different month, but we're getting closer and closer. Where to from here? What is your plan? Right? Where are you going and what are you doing? And this is super important because at the end of the day, what do we want to do? We want to create real-time, adaptable, and resourceful businesses. That's the whole purpose of the digital expedition. It's not saying that we can't just set up a website and go for it, which you obviously can. But one of the things that's been missing is how do we actually enable that? How do we actually leverage that? How do we actually make it more important and critical and prioritized for our business so that we're actually able to use these tools? It's not easy. There's a lot out there, and a lot of it is confusing and chaotic, notwithstanding the things we're seeing in the economy as well. So we really need to take a look at how can we actually plan this going forward? How can we make this very important as well going forward so that we can go forward, so that we can do this kind of stuff. So my name is Doyle Bueller. I guide digital challenger businesses in navigating the daunting digital economy and overcoming the fear, anxiety, and resistance of operating as a true digital company in the 2020s. I help them to discover, align, and skyrocket their online business and visibility so the world knows who they are and how they do business. So can you still market and scale and evolve your business during a crisis, an economic downturn? Well, I'm going to tell you absolutely. And I'm going to show you examples as well of a business that have really picked up the pace and have seen that, you know what, there's a fantastic opportunity here. There's a lot to be said for how do we actually put this together. And again, if you have a plan, if you have a process, if you have a methodology, that's what you need to build that digital foundation for your digital assets and your digital ecosystem as well. And I like to point this out in terms of, we need to step up and challenge sort of the status quo and it's what I call digital challengers, right? You don't necessarily have to be number one. You don't have to be Coca-Cola or Qantas or whatever, number one company in the world type thing. But what you do need to do is have an attitude that says, look, I can compete in that space. I can move forward with how I want to move forward. So we look at here, this would be like the number one companies, and it's not nothing that we can't strive to, right? But this is the space of the digital challenger in this space here. Okay. We're very competent. We're very skilled. We're making great progress, and we're making great sales as well. So there's a lot of that to be said that, look, we need to be able to strengthen that system. We need to be able to strengthen that process that we're developing, because without it, we're not going anywhere. Okay. That puts us in position for number one. But don't get me wrong. Like that's the ultimate goal, but we have to be realistic and say, where are we right now? And I'm going to show you, there's a few things we can sort of see where exactly it is that we are and what we need to do along the way as well. So we are the digital challengers. Change your attitude, unfuck your head, make an honest, unsentimental accounting of your present condition. Prepare to be disappointed. Define what you want instead clearly. By clear, I mean precise and feasible. An unrealistic objective is sure to sabotage the process. Hit the books, try and error, inquire, risk, mimic, insist, resist, right? So we're all along here we're wanting to get here. It's looking not too bad. We've got a little trail here, but we don't necessarily know where that trail leads. And we need to find that out. We need to develop, we need to understand, we need to create that trail in a lot of cases as well. So, all right. So if you're just joining in, quick little housekeeping as well. So you can download some resources as well that I have for the digital expedition also. So just go to bit.ly/digital expedition resources, and you can actually download the large worksheet as well. So you can actually follow along each of these steps. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, obviously, and I'll show you how it all fits together. So any questions, please type in the chat along the way. If you're watching this on replay, on video, on live, just hashtag replay, and I'll come in and answer you as well. And if it's helpful, please like and share as well. Looking forward to it. I've got a couple of great Christmas gifts that I'll be giving away for everybody who registered or who contacts me as well. I've got the Digital Expedition cheat sheet, that big worksheet that I showed you. I've got a new Digital Expedition micro training course as well that's coming out. So I'm going to give you access to that. In the resources, there's going to be the ebook as well, and additional resources there. And if you stick around for the end, I've got a paperback book for a few of you who want to get that mailed out to you as well. So the world is shifting. We've previously been focusing on how many clicks we get, but we really need to look at our strategies to making every click count. And we need to ask ourselves, is this a safari? Is business a safari or an expedition? Ask yourself that question. Okay, what do you think? Is it a safari or is it an expedition? I'm going to posit that most businesses see it as a safari. Okay, you kind of get in your 4x4, you go to some location, you drive around, and you watch for some animals and some tigers and that sort of thing, and just make sure you don't get eaten by some lions. So I think a lot of us think that that's what we're doing here, but in essence, what are the successful businesses doing? Right? What do they have that other businesses don't? Well, I think they see it differently. They see it as an expedition. Okay. And, just our general knowledge of what is an expedition, it's something that requires some good planning up front. It requires a lot of work. It requires that management to be able to see, okay, how do we actually navigate this? What's the roadmap or the flight plan? An expedition, you actually plan a lot in advance because you're looking for some certainty. You're looking for some clarity. You're looking for some competency in terms of how do I do things and what can I be doing differently. So if you take a look at it as an expedition, what does that mean? Well, it means we have to get somewhere. We have to get to the top or the summit or whatever the case may be. The challenge, though, is that if you look at any expedition that's ever been done, it doesn't just go to the summit, right? It doesn't just have your happy team at the summit. Guess what? Your journey is only halfway done. So being at the summit is not necessarily the ultimate goal here. Getting to the end of the expedition is, okay, we want to be able to finish here as a better person, a better company, better structured, more customers, whatever the case may be. So ultimately, a safari is about observation, okay, and seeing what's out there. And I think a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs take that attitude that, oh, we'll just wait and see. We'll wait and see if there's any giraffes on this safari, or we'll wait and see if there's any lions on this safari, or we'll wait and see if there's any tigers or that kind of stuff. Rhinoceroses or rhinoceros, something to think about. Anyway, we're going to look and we're going to see and we're going to wait and see what happens. And guess what? What do you get at the end of a safari? Well, you might get some pictures. What do you get at the end of an expedition? Well, you get something solid, an experience. You get a very good understanding of what it was that needed to be done to take you there. So you can plan another expedition. You can decide that this is exactly what I want to be able to do. So I'm going to show you a bunch of these steps. And if you look at, Mount Everest, for example, they didn't get there on one day going up the summit directly, right? They stopped at multiple places along the way. They call these base camps. Any expedition has these. It doesn't matter if it's small or big, and maybe it's something that they set up along the way, but at least they plan for it to say, hey, we're going to stop here for the night. We're going to stop here for the week and camp out, while the ice flow is going. But the point is that they've really took a look at how do they actually manage this process? How do they actually detail it? How do they actually go forward in terms of getting to where they want to go, getting that to that ultimate goal as well. So we have to look at it. How do we actually move across this? How do we get up, but how do we get back down as well? Understanding the full impact of an expedition is discovery, right? Going up Mount Everest, that was discovery. Going from Europe to North America and across Canada, discovery, right? What else? Going to Antarctica, discovery. We wanted to see what was there and how we could actually do that. And that's the key ingredient, right? Doing. It's doing something along the way. It's not just sitting back and getting your driver to drive you on this little trail, on this little 4x4 trail. It's actually doing stuff. And so if you have that mindset that this is something that we can do, an expedition is what I really need to do to give me that structure, to give me that support, to give me those opportunities that I wouldn't normally had, because I'm looking at it a completely different manner. It's not just, again, getting some pictures, putting on your binoculars and watching things and seeing what they're doing. It's actually discovery and doing. And that's the key point here, is that we need to shift our mind in terms of how do we actually look at this. And it's something that we need to prepare for to give you that level of success as well going forward. So why do we do that? Like I mentioned before, it's the journey of discovery and opportunity. You're already sitting on a mountain of value, right? I'm not going to be telling you today that you must shift or pivot or whatever. You've already have that, right? You have your products, you have your services, you have that capability to do that. I'm just saying, let's put this into the framework that can actually work and to grow and to sustain that business as well. I mean, ultimately, we want to go to, the digital promised land, right? Which means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But what does that mean? It means we have clarity in what we're doing in the digital space. Okay. It means we have certainty. Back to clarity, we have a clear plan, we have a clear outline, we have a clear structure. We also want to get to certainty as well in terms of, well, what do I need to do? Like, I'm not sure. Should I go add Facebook ads, or should I go build a Facebook page or Facebook group, or, what kind of features do I need on my sales pages, on my websites, or should I be putting in member platforms and all that kind of stuff? With an expedition, guess what? We know what we know. We know what we need to develop as well. And then finally, that leads into competency. What do I really know about this? And I'm not saying you have to be the expert or the guru in digital to be able to use it. You don't. Okay. It's very important to understand that difference, that it's what I call digital leadership. But what it actually means is that we understand what we don't understand. So it's very, very clear in terms of what you need to be able to do. And you have a team, you have resources, you have people, you have apps, you've got, all this great technology that you can use, but you also have to be able to understand how do you use it within your brain itself as the leader of the business. So we need to develop that competency. So clarity, certainty, competency, that's where we want to go. And that's what we're actually talking about when we say, hey, I want to be this online, and I want to be that online, or I want to be able to have this this capability. Those are the three elements that are absolutely critical to this process. And once we get those, then we can navigate this space, then we can understand how to do that. But keep in mind, it's not going to happen all at once. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some steps. And that's what I'm going to outline here, is these simple steps that you can take to get to that point where it says, hey, you know what? I know what I need to do. Here's my expedition. Here is my digital expedition. This is what plan I'm going to be moving forward. Here's my flight plan. Here's my resources. Here's my team. Here's what I need to be able to do that. And guess what? It's not going to be in a straight line, and that doesn't matter. I'm not teaching you how to build it into a straight line, because guess what? I know for a fact that it's not a straight line, and I'm going to show you that as well. It's a little bit crooked line, but at least we're going in the right direction as long as we have these pieces in place as well. So it's really important that we look there and we see, how do we get past the chaos, the confusion, the uncertainty? Well, we build in that pathway. We build in that clarity, certainty, and competency as well. So today I'm going to be quickly going over it. Obviously, we don't have time to go into all of these, but these are the 10 base camps that I've created for this digital expedition, getting you prepared and primed and ready to be able to move forward. And not all of them are something to do, right? Let's be perfectly clear here as well. Some of these are just to understand, okay, what do I need to know here, right? What is clear, what is not so clear, what is important, kind of thing. So some of them are doing, and some of them are just thinking and saying, hey, I need to understand this journey. So I've got 10 of these that I'm going to go through as well into a full process coming out here at the end of the day. So now the opportunity in digital and online is absolutely been phenomenal. Okay, that being said, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this coming in, but that being said, the opportunity is quite big. The businesses to capitalize that on that is very, very small. And let me illustrate this. So if we look at e-commerce and lockdown, and this was for the first 7-8 months of 2020, and again, just for clarity, it's UK and USA. The rate of digital adoption typically was 20% to 15%. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that 15 to 20% of businesses were actually able to build a full journey for their audience, for their customer in the digital space online, right? So they had digital assets, they had a digital ecosystem, they had a sales process, they have a clear strategy, they have content, they have an understanding of what they need to do in terms of social media, how to distribute their content, branding campaigns, all this kind of stuff. I talk about that quite a lot. But the bottom line, 20% digital adoption. So these are companies, again, that are beyond just sort of a little bit. I've got a web page and I've got maybe a Facebook page and that sort of thing. They've got a lot more than that. So 20%. Okay. And then if you look at lockdown, since lockdown or since COVID, let's be clear there too, we had a very nice jump, 35%. So what did that mean? That means that businesses that shifted, that pivoted, that said, you know what, there is an amazing opportunity. Those were the ones that were then able to capitalize on that. They were able to provide their products, their services, the way they delivered the way they delivered their products and services as well. Is what I was trying to say. They were all able to do it at the touch of a mouse, at the click of a mouse. Okay, so they shifted, they pivoted, they said, this is what we need to do. This is how we can actually do that. And it's driven by the customer. It's not necessarily businesses saying, oh, I'm going to do this. It's driven by the customer. It's driven by the behaviors of your audience. They're demanding that. And businesses are responding in restaurants and in cafes and in retail and in service-based businesses as well. There's so many different opportunities, and I'm going to explore some of those as well. The bottom line is we're missing out. Okay, there are some businesses as well, and they're going to go up and they're going to go down, but generally speaking, they're going to go up as well. Those are the ones that are saying, hey, wait a sec, I need to do something here. I need to change. And we're talking again, you're already sitting on a mountain of value. You really just have to look at how do you actually deliver that product or service in the digital space as well. So it's not rethinking everything. It's taking what you know and being able to adapt it to this existing condition to say, guess what? We need to be able to compete in the 2020s, in this decade coming up. Because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. The internet has been around since 1990, 95, 96 type thing. So it's been 25 years, and businesses still don't get it. A lot of them don't get it. So if you look at the opposite, 80% normal, okay, in 2019 to the beginning of 2020, 80% of businesses don't have an adequate digital ecosystem, don't have enough digital assets to complete that journey for their customer from end to end. Stunning in my mind. Lots to say there. Similar picture in Australia. At the beginning of COVID, we had a massive change in behavior. We have seen, obviously, it come down after most of Australia left lockdown, but we've since seen it go up and drop and continue up. The point is that the adoption rate continues to go up, little by little, piece by piece. And that's the point here, is that if you're not getting in on it soon enough, you're going to miss out, and your business is not going to be there in a year, because behaviors have changed to be able to understand, how do I deliver it if I can't stand in line, or if I can't go to your store? How do I actually do a service delivery for a service-based company? So I have to be very, very clear about how do I actually make this work? How do I produce those capabilities? So I said it before, typically we're about 20% right now. It peaked to about 35%. Let's be generous here. That's not quite half in that diagram. How do we get it up to ideally, what if we had, 10,000 companies get to 70% digital adoption rate? 10,000 companies. Like, can you imagine how massive that is if you're moving from 20 to 70% in terms of the economic benefits for the business, right? Your GDP of the country, economics of the business. It's all around. It's a very good position to be in as well. So just curious, if you've got time, quickly set in the chat box or the questions. Where are you? Are you at 1% or are you at 100% in terms of digital adoption and penetration? What do you have? What capabilities do you have? And where do you want to go? And that gets us to this point of being a digital leader. And that's what I talk about a lot. But how do you actually convey that knowledge? It's that expertise. It's that understanding. You don't need to be, again, the expert. But what you do need to be able to do is understand the difference between, yes, I need this technology, yes, I need this service, or no, I don't, because it's not going to actually help my bottom line as well. So you have created that capability to get that clarity to say, oh, I don't need this, I need this, I don't need this. This is how my campaigns have to be designed. Again, you don't need to do it yourself. There's a lot of people or part of your resources or whatever that you have. So I'd love to hear, where are you? Are you at the 1% or at the 100%? And please tag me as well in the post so I can get back and answer to you specifically. But something to think about. Where do we want to go? Right? Let's get to this 70%. Let's get 10,000 companies to get to 70% digital adoption. Like, that's fantastic level to be at for the company itself, for the everybody that supports that company, and for the country as well. So let's keep moving forward. So where is the opportunity? 5 years of growth in 3 months. How about that opportunity? Okay. Like, we're talking significant. So this little snaggletooth way down here, that represents 5 years of growth in 3 months. And the recent press has indicated that is continuing again. Okay. So that's a rise in online driven business. 5 years of growth in 3 months. Wouldn't that be fantastic if you could have that as well? And you can, right? It's about how do you actually plan and prepare for that. You can't just, again, put up a website and hope people are going to come. You need to create that journey. You need to create that digital expedition to create that experience, that remarkable experience that everybody needs to see. So what's easier, around the block or around the world? Something to think about. Typically, we're sort of been working inside of our little business here. Yes, that's a business. And here's the happy business owner. Don't ask me to draw anything. I'm not a very good drawer, as you can tell. But typically, we've seen that most businesses operate within a 10-kilometer radius. And this is local retail, but this is also a lot of service businesses, consulting, teaching, whatever the case may be. Or what is that, 6.67 miles for all of our American friends out there. I think that's right. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But we typically work in this bubble of 10K. What if we could work in, a bigger bubble? What if we could work in a bigger bubble here, right? Like, we've got the whole planet here, and I'm not going to draw a planet, or maybe I could, but here's Earth. There we go. I think that's Europe. Maybe, yeah, Australia is down here. That's North America. Do you see, I still have the North American centrist view of the world. But at the click of a mouse, one click, we can be around the world. We can have customers. It doesn't matter if they can walk to your store or to your office. You can have your customers at the click of a mouse. Okay. But keep in mind, though, that your competitors are one click away as well. So it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, because that actually allows them to take part of your market as well. So you're one click away from your competitors, but you're also one click away from your next customer. So they need to be able to understand that they can count on you to be able to deliver outside of your little sphere. And even if you are, I'm going to show you some of the specific steps that businesses that want to deliver retail product today on demand can. They can do that right now. With no new technology that needs to be used. It's no different than having Zoom. Zoom's been available for years. I've been using it for years. It's become vogue because everybody needs to use it. Everybody needs to connect because they have no choice. And that's the behavior shift that we're seeing is that we don't have that choice. People have had that choice rather taken away. Not with digital. So let's get into these base camps. And again, I'm just going to give you a rough idea. I'm not going to go into too much detail just to keep things simple as well. Going forward, just so you get an idea of how these pieces fit together. So base camp number one is called sense making. And what that is giving meaning to experience. As I said before, you're sitting on a mountain of value. There's lots to know. There's lots to see. You have amazing experience. You and your team have amazing experience. How do you actually leverage that as well? And really it comes down to how do we see ourselves and how do we see the problems and how do we see sort of how we can actually navigate, and again, how do we make sense of the world and how do we make sense of our business? And that's fundamentally what it's about, because we have the unpredictable world here and we need to move to the predictable world. Okay, that's what gives us that certainty, that's what gives us that understanding as well. And it is, there are steps here as well. So we move from chaos, and some of us may be thinking we're in a chaotic state right now, but it's also unimaginable. Nobody really imagined that this would happen, but guess what? It has happened. We can look at it and say this is very complex. As we get to know more, we're finding out that it's, it's not, well, it is at this specific point, it's unmanageable. And then once we get a little bit more knowledge, we can say that this problem, this challenge is manageable. We can actually do something about it. And then we can say, hey, I guess what? I really know what we need to do to fix this problem. So it's about how do we actually navigate these steps, and we're all going to be part of these steps, right? So we all are going to be processed through that, have to go through those steps as well as we get into it. Just adjusting my iPad here. So I'd be curious to know, like, what is chaos unimaginable? What is complexity unmanageable to you? What is being knowable and manageable? And what is being known and fixable as well? So where can you progress to that? Where are you now? Right? What do you need to know to be able to get to that state where it is predictable? It is, I'm very, very certain of this is what I need to do. One of the things that I talk about too is that we really need to look at, well, if I'm online, if I'm retail, do I really need to be online? And if I'm online, do I really need to be retail? And guess what? You can't have both. Okay. It's not a net zero, sum zero game here. You can't have both. And in Spanish, they say, porque no los dos, I think is how it goes. You can have both, right? So we were actually seeing a shift now back. Remember I was talking about us moving forward, and we're seeing that shift to adoption. We are seeing, these spikes because businesses are saying, well, guess what? You know what? I'm digital smidgetal. I don't really need to do this. They're really missing the point. Okay. You can have both. If you are a restaurant within your 10-kilometer radius, as I suggested, guess what? You can serve customers outside of that. We all have that technology is available to do that, in terms of developing on-demand delivery, creating a remarkable digital experience, and having, value that surprises and delights as well. So you can do that, and you can have both. So let's say you jump on the digital bandwagon and say, okay, I need to have this. Here's my digital expedition. This is what I'm going to do. Why would you stop once it's there? There's a great example that I'm going to be talking about coming up soon that actually demonstrates that is very, very short-sighted when you look at the digital economy and what that can actually do for the business going forward. It's again phenomenal. It's really quite large. So we need to continue to say, yeah, okay, we might have those little breaks, but digital is real. This isn't really virtual. This is real time. This is a real place. I'm a real person. I'm not a robot. And so we need to define that digital is just a different place, just a different channel that we're actually engaging people in. And that's the main difference here. And we can have both, and we have to have both. If you're retail, you need to have an online side. And if you're online, you know what, you may not need to switch back because that might be your niche. And I'm not saying you have to go back the other way, but if you're a service-based business and you need that ability to be able to connect with people outside of your 10-kilometer radius, you need digital. You must have it. So the inflection economy, what's this? Well, this is a lot of countries rather moving into a recession, right? I think Australia entered a recession for the first time in 30 years back in July, I think it was. So it's not happening everywhere, but we have obviously seen it, and it's been compounded. Uh, there's firm believers out there that recession was on its way, kind of thing. Last year, late last year, it was just a matter of time, and then obviously with COVID and the pandemic, um, aggravated that quite a lot. So basically, what it says is that guess what? We're in a downward curve in the economy, and that's fine. But what can we do about it? Are there points along the way that says that, oh, we can do something here, we can do something here, we can do something here? Absolutely. Now, if we look at this, I'm not saying that you can control the economy, because that's completely false. But what you can do is you can manage and control your response. So this is how you're able to look at that. Now, the challenge here is timing. Now, there's a thing called the inflection curve, and that's basically when you move from one curve to another curve. So it kind of looks like that. The inflection point is there. That's where there's the shift of the parameter that we're measuring. So in this case, the economy as well. So if you look at it from that perspective, depending on what I do here, I can shift my business. If I continue, let's say I start there, I can continue my business. If I start here, I can create that inflection. Again, my response to the economy, to COVID, to pandemic is at a specific point in time. And then I can do it here as well. I can reflect on this. I can cause an inflection point to occur based on my response. And that's key here. And if you noticed, what's different here is the time. Okay, time 1, time 2, time 3. Every time I wait, what's happening? We're still continuing in that downward path. We can't get rid of that. But again, what we can decide to do is do something here, or do something here, or do something here. So looking at it, the decision's pretty easy. It's kind of already made for you. What do? We need to do now. We need to act now. The response has to be now. It has to be immediate. Otherwise, we're just going to continue downward. So we can start today. We can wait for tomorrow. Or, you know what? I'm going to wait and see. Remember that safari? That's what the mindset of businesses now, a lot of them are, oh, I'm just going to wait and see. See if any rhinoceroses, hippopotami, are we going to pass any of them? Or are we going to actually go look for them? So we have to be able to understand that. When is the best time to plant a tree? We've all heard that. When is the best time to plant a tree? Yesterday. And before that, 20 years ago. But today is what we live with and what we have. So we need to be able to understand, how do we actually do that now? And I'm just going to show you quickly that we can do 3 things here. We can do strategic, which is reinforcing success. We can do something, which is it's better than nothing, but it can also be unstable. Or we can just simply do nothing. And that's waiting for something to happen. I'm just going to wait and see. Are they going to come up with a vaccine? Are they going to stop the lockdown? Are they going to start another lockdown? Right? So it's a very do nothing. It's just going to reinforce your failure as well. And if we look at it from a different perspective here, let's say if we do something, what happens usually is we'll try something, it'll go, we'll try it again, we'll lose it, we'll try something, oh, we'll try something again, oh, try something, go back, oh, nothing. Right? This is called your do something line. Why doesn't it always work? Because we don't always know what we're doing or what we're supposed to be doing. So you're going to try it. And I'm not saying don't experiment. That's actually one of the tenets of what I talk about is do experiment. But we need to make sure that we're doing the experiments under the right conditions and that we understand again, what is the journey that we're trying to accomplish here as well. If we do nothing, what happens? Well, nothing happens, right? Do nothing. Just watch things happen. Watch, wonder, and do make things happen. So if we do nothing, nothing's going to happen. We're going to continue to be on that trajectory that I showed you. And we're at the fate of whatever happens to that economy if we don't actually step up and do something. And then, of course, if we do what I call do strategic, Yeah, it's not going to be a straight path. And I've told you that before, but at least we're doing something constructive. At least we're building towards a specific goal, a specific experience, a specific objective, right? So we need to be able to understand how to get that moving forward as well, because that's where we're going to go. So not everything is going to work, and this is a game where we have to look at doing experiments, but at least the experiments are outlined with what we want to be able to do and how we want to be able to do it as well. So very, very key for that to happen. Our progress is upward, right? Yes, we are going to do some things that may be maybe not 100% correct, but that's okay. Generally speaking, we're heading in the right direction because we have a plan. It's like going on a trip. You have a plan. I'm going to fly to whatever, Sydney to Los Angeles. I have a plan. I've got a ticket too, but I've got a plan and I know what I'm going to do when I get there. We need to be thinking more positively. We need to be thinking more strategically as well as we get into this, so that we can actually make decisions. We can reinforce the success and we can run experiments that say that this is important for how we get things done. And this is how we move forward as well. So, all right, base camp number 3, signals and data. So data is the new oil. What does that mean? It's very, very important to be able to see the data from your customers, from your audience. And without that, you really don't have a lot to go on. So signals are that reception, that perception of the data, but signals are sort of an understanding that this is what people are looking for. This is what my audience need. This is the information that I'm getting from them. And there is a difference between, listening and hearing. Okay. We can listen or we can just hear, right? And I know it's subtle, but a lot of us don't always listen, right? We hear what you're saying. We heard you said, I need to be able to do this process completely online. I need to be able to pay you, on my terms kind of thing with these providers. Are we listening or are we actually hearing? So we need to be able to do that. We need to look at clarity versus noise. There is a lot of noise out there. And unless we're able to be clear what is that it's important, how do we actually separate that clarity from the noise? And that's not just us receiving, but that's also us talking and us also broadcasting, for lack of a better word, getting our content out there and what have you. We need to be able to do it in a clear fashion so that it cuts through that noise, so that it enables our audience as well. And we need to look at static versus slipstream, right? In an aircraft, there's static air pressure, which kind of hovers around the aircraft even when it's moving. And then you have, which slows it down, basically. It's like drag. Once you get up to a certain speed, it becomes a slipstream, and that's how airplanes fly, is that air actually moves through or the aircraft actually moves through the air a lot easier. There's not as much drag on it. So we need to get to that point, say this is the slipstream. This is what's really important as well. And I just want to highlight that with, what I call the noise. Is your audience wearing noise canceling headphones? If you look at it from the perspective that a lot of times people have these on in real life too, and it's noise canceling nowadays, not just the headphones. It's because there is too much noise, because they only want to focus in on what's important to them. And how do they do that? They do that with the physical embodiment of covering your ears. And I'm only going to listen to my Spotify tracks. I'm only going to watch my videos. So we need to be able to understand that, guess what? If they're doing that, there's a reason for that. So we need to be able to understand, how do we actually make or help them understand what we're providing so that they want to listen to us or watch us or whatever the case may be. So quick check here. What are the signals you're being sent from your audience? The obvious ones. I'm going to get into the unobvious ones coming up next, but what are the signals you're being sent? What is the data that you're then able to use, right? Okay, signals is receiving, data is understanding what to do with it, and then responding to it. So are you able to provide that information for when they're looking? Are you able to customize and to personalize that experience? Are you able to create a digital experience? That's how you actually use that data to reinforce that. And we talk a lot about personalization, but guess what? Personalization just isn't having, your name on a pen. It's about that experience. And how can you actually do that in the digital space? You need to think about, how can I actually produce this experience that is personalized, so that I really know that it's you that I'm talking to. It's not some random person. It's not some random number. It's somebody specific. And there are going to be groupings, obviously, but that allows you to just focus in on what's important to that specific customer. So one of the things that I have is what I call the missing bullets. And these are the things that you don't see. Okay. We talked about the ones that you do see, ones that are pretty obvious. What are the pretty obvious ones that your customers saying to you? They want you to, simply, they want you to open late, or they want to be able to pay with, that new payment type service or whatever. So you have to receive that signal and then convert it into how do I create that experience for them. What about the data that they don't know, or the signals rather that you can't necessarily see? And a good example and point is what I call the missing bullet strategy. And this is back in World War II. I'm just going to draw an engine here because that's how they fly. They need propulsion. Go figure. But during World War II, they're obviously launching airplanes across Europe to bomb the cities and that sort of thing. As the Allies were taking back Europe, type thing. So they would send out these bombers to go, and fighters too. It wasn't just the bomber aircraft, but what they needed to do was not all of them were coming back, right? Though that's quite obvious. They were getting shot down, and the pilots and the crew and the aircraft pilots were not crew were not returning, and the aircraft were obviously gone missing forever. So what they wanted to do was to find out exactly, okay, well, what's happening here? What do we actually need to do? So what they did is when the aircraft returns, they mapped out the bullets. Just going to change colors here. Right. And what they were doing is that they were drawing these bullet patterns. So all these aircraft were coming back, and let's put a few more bullets there. So they were counting bullets, or bullet holes rather. The problem was, and hopefully everybody can see this, or I can explain it, is that they were missing the key ingredient here. The key points is that none of the aircraft returning had bullets here, bullets here, bullets here, bullets here, bullets here, bullets here and here kind of thing, and other areas. And what they discovered was that, guess what? Those aircraft weren't actually returning back from the theater. Why? Because they were shot down. So basically, they weren't able to identify that these were the areas that the aircraft was being shot down. They mapped out those areas, which was fine. But what were they missing? They were missing these critical areas. So most people would have said, oh, well, let's just put armor. And this is what they actually did. Let's put armor in these areas where the bullets are hitting. Okay, so all of these areas, let's put armor plating so that when they're shot, it won't destroy the aircraft. It won't cause the aircraft to crash. Well, guess what? That wasn't the case. The armor didn't work there. The armor only worked in the important spots, protecting the pilots, protecting the engines, protecting, there's a lot of colors here, protecting rather the central core area of the aircraft and the flight controls as well. So the aircraft that were reinforced in those areas, the ones that didn't have any holes, were the ones that they were saving. So that's what we really need to look at here, is what's important and what are we actually missing? Because missing can sometimes tell us a lot more of what we need to know than what is actually staring us right in the face. Like, for example, the noise canceling headphones. That's pretty obvious, okay? And I mean that metaphorically as well. In terms of what are they trying to say? They're trying to say that they want to focus with what they've got on. But what are they not saying? They're not talking about, they want to be able to do that on an airplane perhaps, or, in the park or in a library or in the shops walking around. They haven't told you that. All we see is these headphones that they're wearing. We don't actually identify where are they? What are they doing when they're wearing these kind of headphones as well? So we have to look at it. What are your missing bullets and strategies? And again, love to hear what you have. What are your missing bullets that might just be going missing? Because once we see that, we can see a lot more going forward as well. All right, so digital Basecamp number 4, digital transformation. So this is basically looking at where are we right now? And where are we right now? We're in what I call the liminal space, okay? We are in that space between where we are right now and where we need to be. So it's changed dramatically since the beginning of the year, let's be perfectly honest. But we need to embrace that. And it's not just as a result of COVID. There's obviously some economic and cultural factors as well, but that's where we are. Most of us are here because our our operations have been quite transactional, but we need to be able to move to this space where it is more transformational. And that's, again, I call the liminal space, rather, that allows us. It's like sitting at an airport terminal. You know that you're there for a reason. You know you're going somewhere specific. So it's very critical that we're able to understand, how do we actually get there? Why am I in this airport? Where am I heading? Like, those are the questions that you have when you're doing that's what the space that we're in right now. So we need to define that vision, that mission, to say, let's move forward, right? Let's get this show on the road. Time is ticking. How do we actually do that? Well, we need to be able to understand, what tactics do I have? What strategies do I have? What's my vision? How am I going to evolve along this process as well? And I talked about it before. It's not a straight line, right? This is how it's going to look when you look back on it, but looking forward, it's going to be, look, this is how we're actually going to do it. So I'd love to hear what are your tactics, your strategies, your vision, your evolution that you have right now. This is where we are. And then look a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. And I'm going to show you how to do that coming up as well. So we need to be able to understand that these are the spaces that we're in. How do we actually utilize those, and how do we actually move them forward going as well? Now, this is what I call this is base camp number 5. Fear, learning, and growth. And this is basically on taking a look at our whole entire environment. There's a lot holding us back, but we also need to know, what will take us there. What do we need? What's important, what's not, and that sort of thing. And if you look at it from, just a human side of things, we have in our business, we've got our pains, we've got our pains, our problems, and in some cases, this leads to paralysis as well. And we actually move through 3 zones. Zone 1 is what I call fear. Zone 2 is what I call learning, and Zone 3, which is what I call growth as well. So these are specific stages that we need to go through when we're moving in that liminal space, right? Overcoming that problem, overcoming that challenge, moving forward with our business, whatever the case may be. If it's a personal thing, that's the exact same thing that we need to look at. But it's going to take us some time. Give yourself 30 days, 3 months, or 3 years, or whatever the case may be. It's not just going to happen right away. That's impossible. Even if we have all the pieces in place, even if we have our digital expedition plan in place, we still have to implement. We still have to, go through the steps, go through the process, and everything else that's required there. So it's very important that we look at, there's time involved here. I'm not going to be able to get through that right away. And sometimes I feel that that's what slows us down too, is that we think we should be further ahead than we actually are, but yet there's not even a plan in place in the first place. So we need to be able to understand that. So the things that are important, what I call your state: are we in chaos, comprehension, certainty? What I call knowledge map. And again, this is for you as the business owner or the CEO or whatever the case may be, but also for your audience. This is the digital journey. This is how you're going to put the pieces together for them. They're going to be moving from, maybe it's not specifically fear, but it's the unknown, it's the unsureness, it's the uncertainty, it's all that kind of stuff. We need to move them into that progressive steps as well. We're going to see some, just going back. So what we're looking for here is, how do I do this? Should I, can I do something like this? How can I add this to my process? And then finally, could I? So again, you're causing them to think a little bit further for yourself as well, in terms of what is my digital journey for my audience looking like? This is my digital expedition as a result. So some of the symptoms, we've got marketing fears, we've got testing, we've got confirmation as well. So we have to progress through all of this as we get into it. There are some tools. There's the ladder or life raft, roadmap, and a flight plan as well. So these are critical. And then thinking strategically, this is where we see the shift, where we see building the foundation. And this is where we can kind of look back and say, hey, this was quite interesting. This is, what's going to happen based on what I've seen, type thing. And then finally, we look at signals, which I talked about. We need to look at enablers, and we need to look at assets. How are we actually building the business? We're not just sitting on a website that sat there for 10, 15, 20 years, or whatever the case may be, right? We have to build these digital assets that enable our audience to complete their own journey, their own digital expedition, their own story. And that's what's critical, is that we need to be able to look at, how do we produce these outcomes for this as well. So if you've downloaded this cheat sheet. You can actually, circle the items you need to understand to work and develop. And again, you might find that, oh, I'm over here in state. I'm still a little bit scared. I've got just going to change the color there. Didn't quite. I'm developing a roadmap. I'm still trying to shift in terms of shift the business model and shift the revenue model. And you know what? I'm past signals. I'm into enablers as well. So just, would love to see where you are. I'm zone two, kind of still sort of learning things. So I'd love to see where you are. So in that cheat sheet that you can download from the Digital Expedition resources, yeah, let me know where you're at with that one. So spanning the gap. Do you need a ladder or a life raft, right? So typically, we've all seen sort of those entrepreneur curves or whatever, but we've hit a roadblock. We've hit a gap. Okay, but we want to get back up there, and we have to decide. Are we on a ladder here, or are we on a life raft, kind of to help us get over that? A little rubber dinghy, which looks like a donut. But we need to be able to understand that there is this gap. We need to recognize that, okay? It's not going away. It's not going to magically disappear. It's something that actually needs to be able to move forward. And that's what's going to be important here. So do you consider it as a life raft or a ladder? Because that's what sort of enables us. And again, it's just sort of a point of perception to be able to say, what can we do here? How do we actually move forward from that? So what does this all look like? What does all that look like? Well, it's a triangle, right? Triangle shows you exactly what you need. It's a very strong structure because it has a foundation, it has the sides, and it has an apex as well that provide that. But what do we need to understand is that there are multiple steps here as well. Okay, as I said before, it's not just going up to the summit. Okay, that's great, but that's not reality. That's not real life. We actually need to be able to understand how to put these pieces together. And that's where we're going. And that's where the whole digital expedition comes in place. So we need to look at it again. As I said, is it a safari or expedition? Are we just seeing or are we doing? And that's what we need to look at. So how do we go from fear to learning to growth? We progress through our base camps. And again, the summit is not the destination. The summit is part of the objective, but it's not the ultimate goal. We're going to come back down from Everest, okay? And if you don't, then you've done it wrong, unfortunately. We're going to come back on our expedition. We're going and we're going to be better because of it. We're going to grow, from revenue, from business, from capabilities, from knowledge, from having that certainty, having that clarity, everything. That's the whole purpose of the expedition as well. So what exactly is it? It's, a lot of us are looking and saying, well, digital is bloody confusing, right? And you're absolutely right. It's what I call the black wire. So this is the chaotic sense of online and digital and marketing and business and all that kind of stuff. The reason why it's so chaotic is that it's, if you imagine it like a hose, okay, how do you actually wind up a hose? You can't just wind up a hose by curling it, right? Because otherwise it becomes knotted and twisted and all that sort of thing, or even unwinding it. What do you have to do? You have to kind of give it a little flick. You have to give it a little move forward as well, so that it actually you're actually elevating it into another dimension. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but that's what you're doing. You're moving a hose, which is two-dimensional, into three dimensions because you've pulled it up high and you've started to unwind it. So you're actually unwinding another dimension. Kind of weird, but that's the truth. So how do we do that? We need to make sure that we understand what we're doing and how to actually unwind it. And that's what the digital expedition does, is it helps unwind that. And if you ask yourself, a question I ask a lot is, what's the best way to cross the Grand Canyon? Okay, it's not necessarily your first immediate reaction. It's like, well, I can, go on the road kind of thing. I can go down the valley. I can take a helicopter. I can take an airplane, so you have to look at how do I actually elevate that experience to something that's useful, something that's practical, and something that I can actually do on the long term as well. And that's where we're actually then able to say, if we create it like an expedition, if when we're unwinding it, what is this point of clarity? What is this point of certainty? And what is this point of competency? And this is important for every every single business out there. Okay, we define this as ourselves for what we do and how we do it as well. So ask yourself, what is my point of clarity? What is my point of certainty? And what is my point of competency as well? Because that's how we can actually start to unwind this, to say it doesn't matter about the tech. It matters more about how we're actually building the business. Tech is tech is tech, and we can use something, we can take it away and that sort of thing. But the human side of building this business is understanding it from a human side. Where is that point of clarity? Where is that point of certainty? And where is that point of competency? And if you can, just again grab the cheat sheet, the worksheet, and what are your points? And it might take a little bit, and there are some other exercises that I usually get into, but what is it for you? What does that point of clarity look like for you? Is it understanding your audience? Is it looking at how you can market to them? Is it being more strategic? Is that understanding the technology? Is it understanding again your audience? Where is the point of certainty for you? What is that? What is that ultimate piece of information that is critical for how you do your business? And then what do you really want to know about this whole entire steps, these whole entire pieces that give you that digital leadership to say, hey, this is what I need, or no, I don't need that. I need to be able to develop it in this area. So when you're adding to your team, when you're adding to your resources, you know specifically what you need. Yes, again, as I say, you're going to be able to ask people to deliver more or whatever the case may be, but at least you know what you know, and that's your competency. This all fits together in what I call the digital amps approach, which is based on audience, method, process, and story. So again, these can go into a lot of depth, but we're looking at how do we progress up that path, up that mountain, creating this expedition for ourselves, but also for our audience, for our business, for our customers. So we need to be able to look at all these individually, okay? And the one that I want to focus on just for today is what I call process. Okay, because a lot of this a power triangle can actually show you what you can do forward as well, and it has some really good examples that I'm going to be able to show you also. So I'm just going to focus on this area for this web event, but know that there are these others as well that need to build that stability, and that these are your digital assets. This is your foundation that you're going to be able to move forward with. So this is what I call the third wave of business. So a good example, actually, I'll just get into the detail first, but there's three factors here. One is value creation. So are you able to surprise and delight your audience? And I don't mean by having, streamers and sparklers and that sort of thing. I'm talking fundamental value of what are you providing. So that's very, very important. Are you able to provide a digital experience, one that's personalized, one that's remarkable, and one that's worth remembering as well? And if you don't have that, then you're not able to compete in the digital space. And then the third factor is your digital delivery. And in this case, it's on demand. And it doesn't matter if you're an online e-commerce retailer or you're a service-based or entertainment-based or events-based business, you have to be able to, again, have that ability to deliver your products or services online. If you're a traditional retailer with products, guess what? You can connect something, within a couple of hours that uses crowdsourcing type delivery methods where somebody comes, picks it up, and delivers it to your customer within a couple hours. Obviously, this is within the same city, but you can expand that outside of your sphere of influence as well, depending on how your business is set up and how that crowdsourcing digital delivery exists. The fact is that most things can be on demand, specifically for service-based businesses, consulting, coaching, that sort of thing. So that's where you can surpass most of these other businesses. An example that I love talking about, a model which is called what I call HelloFresh meets Jamie Oliver meets Uber Eats. So if we look at this, HelloFresh has the value that they provide ingredients that you're then able to chop and cut and prepare and cook and that sort of thing. It's not the prepackaged sort of microwave meals that you take out and you throw in your fridge and then you throw in your microwave or your oven. This is stuff that you actually make. So the value creation is there. It's the experience of cooking. Now, Jamie Oliver, this is how you actually create the digital experience. He did the show back in the beginning of 2020. That was very personal. It was like his family, I think, was filming parts of it. It was really quite the nice experience. But what if you could have that opportunity to, and again, we don't have to all be Jamie Oliver. I'm certainly not Jamie Oliver in the kitchen. But the point is that he's demonstrating his expertise. You as that business owner, as the CEO, as whatever the marketing director, you are that expert. So you can actually create that experience that is able to do that specifically as well. And that's where you create that on that the digital experience worth remembering, because you are able to then, have that expertise, have that person sort of carry through that conversation and help your audience do that as well. And then finally, the meets Uber Eats. So what does that mean? That means, again, digital delivery on demand. So how do we actually do that? In the case of food, it's quite easy. You have these crowdsourced type delivery operators that I can get ingredients to you within a couple of hours. So if you're having a dinner party tonight with your friends, your family in your home, and your neighborhood friends, and your friends from different cities or towns or rural areas or whatever around the world, you can all come together and have that product delivered to you instantaneously or on demand within a couple of hours. And then you create that experience. You've got this wonderful sense of, oh, we created something together. You can do it. I've seen it done with art. I've seen it done with, restaurants, and how they're actually able to leverage that digital side of things. As they've said, look, we need to be able to create this digital experience. Our value is very unique. This is what we're doing. It's a special recipe. It's a special product. It creates that special environment, and we're able to get it to you on demand. And if you have those elements, then you're going to be able to move forward as well. Another example quickly is what I call Cirque du Soleil versus Disney. And they actually did nothing. Sadly, they went into bankruptcy. I think it was back in June. And the reasoning was that, well, events are closed. So therefore we have no events and we have no business. So again, I don't know what sort of was happening behind the scene, but it became quite apparent that they're just stopping. They're not doing anything. And it was quite surprising, because Cirque du Soleil has always been held in high regard as being one of the very innovative type companies. I think they were part of the blue ocean strategy kind of things in terms of being innovative. But guess what? They stubbed their toes severely on this, because when you think about it, what does Cirque du Soleil have or can do and can have and that sort of thing? They're all about experience. But if you take a look at it, just from what they've done, they have, thousands and tens of thousands of hours of videos and content and that sort of thing, from shows and performances from around the world with experts and stars and celebrities and all that kind of stuff. Like, they were the events company of events company. But what if they were able to take those massive archives and create a streaming network, or something like the Netflix of spectacle? Because that's in essence what they were. They were very creative in their shows. They were, again, it was such a wonderful experience to be part of that. So why couldn't they continue that? They just suddenly said, oh, no, we're not even going to try. And I was reading just in last week, I think it was, where they'd actually canceled Zumanity, the show that's been running for, I think it was like 12 or 18 years or something like that in Las Vegas. They canceled the show entirely. You have these pockets of event type businesses that are going, sorry, we can't do this. But if you really dig deeper, you can see that they can have they have a tremendous opportunity for their business model to be able to succeed. What, Cirque du Soleil fan wouldn't want to pay $20 a month or whatever the case, get the VIP access for $100 a month to watch all the shows on demand, to be part of, directors and producers and that talking about the show, and, being able to watch these shows over and over again from, or watch a new show when you're in a different city or whatever the case may be. Nothing. They haven't produced anything like that, at least to my knowledge. Maybe they've started, or maybe they're working in the background on that. But to this date, they haven't done anything, which is more surprising than anything. Whereas there's actually been a lot of events company that have realized this is where they've sort of taken that pivot and say, this is something I understand. People can't come to my events anymore but can I go to them? And in this case, it's can I go to them in the digital space? Can I go to them online in real time, right? Creating an entertaining festival type experience for them, all at the click of a mouse. And there's some artists and entertainers that are again complaining, oh, I can't do this concert because nobody's going to come to, or they can't buy tickets or whatever the case may be. But the fresh thinkers are thinking, hey, wait a sec, I can create an event, I can create a festival, and I can invite everybody on earth, on the planet rather, who likes my music or whatever. Let's be a little bit more specific, but I can do that. I can go to my audience now. And this is how you make every click count, is that your audience knows who you are. Bring them into that experience, them into that environment where you excel at. And people are paying for these events too, for paying for these experiences to be able to participate in. So what's not to like about that? I can create an event online, an experience, a festival. I can have people, my audience from around the world, come and at a click of a mouse, purchase their tickets, and then connect with me, 2 weeks or 3 months down the road for my concert, for my digital festival. Guess what? We're winning. Disney, on the other hand, should have done that the other way. Cirque du Soleil did that. Disney said they had this play called Hamilton, and it's pretty world famous. I've never seen it, but apparently it's quite good. Anyway, Disney said, hey, wait a sec. We've got this asset that all we need to do is translate it or transform it into digital. We can add it to our streaming service. So Disney said, let's move this forward. So what they did is, instead of creating a movie, they actually just went and filmed the production of Hamilton. And they created that within, I think it was like a couple weeks. And then within another couple weeks, it's streaming on Disney Plus. So they went from an idea of how do we actually add more assets to our audience base to having it ready, available on demand. They've created the value, they've created that digital experience, and they're able to deliver it instantaneous on demand. So Disney got it 100% right, like 2 thumbs up for that. Cirque du Soleil, I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but unless they realize that, guess what, we can actually do that. Why can't, again, Cirque du Soleil be the Netflix of spectacle? That's what they really need to do to be able to move forward. All right, so once we've kind of identified, and if you go through the check sheet, there's 3 of these. So if you can identify, what is your value, what is your experience, and what is your on-demand delivery. So go through the cheat sheet and do these. There's 3 for all of them, right? For all of these triangles. What we need to do then is actually just organize them. And this becomes our flight plan. And this is why it's actually quite easy, is we've gone through the heavy lifting of here. Let's go through all of these. And obviously we're not going to do that now, but we can do that. We can understand, okay, what 3 things are important here, 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 and here. And there's 12 of them. Okay. If we go through the whole process, there's 12. So all we need to do is outline those 12, spend a little bit of time doing that, and then that gives us the opportunity to say, hey, wait a sec, we can actually organize these into a flight plan. And the reason I call it a flight plan is because we've got that 3rd dimension. Okay, a roadmap is great, but what does a roadmap do? It's 2 dimensions. Flight plan is 3 dimensions. Remember I asked you about how do you cross the Grand Canyon? The best way is to fly across it, whether it's helicopter or hang glider, maybe, if you're good at that. But it's not in a jet car. No, road is okay if that's what if you want to kind of see the sights as well, but we need to translate it into 3 dimensions as well. So we can do that. Take each one of these building blocks that we talked about, these 3 items here, lay them out wherever you want. Let's say we'll put those here. These then become our flight plan. So we've taken these 12 elements. Here's 3 here. Again, hopefully that makes sense. We've got 12 individual elements throughout that whole digital expedition. We're just unraveling them, unwrapping, unwinding them to say this is group 1, this is group 2, this is group 3, and this is group 4. We have our flight plan. Okay, these are the steps that we then can take. So I can say, I need to develop this value, I need to develop this experience, I need to develop this on-demand capability. And we can outline that here. Then what's important is just putting some time to it, because again, it's not going to happen overnight, but we have to say, this is our 3-month plan, this is our 2-month plan, this is our 1-month plan. And we need to be able to do that very, very quickly. so that we can move forward. Pretty easy, right? My iPad just froze. Try that again. I think that might be my Zoom. Maybe try this again. And if you do have any questions along the way, again, if you're watching this in replay, would love to hear from you as well. Just hashtag replay. And I will answer your question as soon as I can. Let's see here. Hopefully we'll get this going. Yep. Okay, I think we're good to go. No. Okay. I'm going to see if I can maybe. Nothing seems to be working. Maybe it's full. I guess that's one of the things too is with technology, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And it's more important to be able to say, hey, it doesn't always work that well. So I need to be prepared for that. That is not going to work very well as well. So I'm just rebooting and seeing if that's going to help here. I do like the, if you've been watching along, like I just have an iPad, which connects through Zoom, and then I'm able to sketch. And I do actually enjoy that quite a lot because it allows for that flexibility to be able to sketch and to draw circles. And not that I'm a good drawer artist, but it gives us that opportunity to be able to do that. So if you do have technology, guess what? It more than likely is going to fail, but don't let that, create havoc upon your presentation or whatever. Even traditional presentations and that sort of thing, those don't always work. The mic doesn't work, or something doesn't connect properly, or it stops midstream as well. So it's obviously very common, and you just kind of have to keep moving on. All right, so we'll see if this works, and if not, I'll just keep moving on. Yeah, it seems to be working on the iPad now, so hopefully we'll get this rolling. Because this is the exciting part when you really think about it. Because this is sort of the actual crux of where we're heading and where everything is going. Says it's working, but it's not actually working. So we're almost ready to wrap up too. So it says I can't connect. Come on, Zoom. What's going on? Well, that doesn't look like it's working very well. Come on, Zoom. Did Zoom stop working? I'm just going to take a quick little pause here. Unable to connect through airplane. All right, well, we'll get this going pretty quick. Just bear with me. Maybe I'll just try that. One more thing I might be able to try. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay, I think that works. Okay. For some reason, it works. Yay. All right. So Let's continue. So base camp number 8, this is your flight plan. And again, I call it a flight plan specifically because we want to think about 3 dimensions here. And there's a little cool little story I'm going to share with you at the end that kind of illustrates that point as well. So um, take these power triangles, each one of them, okay? And now the pen's not working. Okay, give me a second here. So take these specific uh, the power triangles, and we just place them in these spots along the way. So again, the order is up to you. You have to decide what's most important. I recommend looking at it from the whole AMPS process, so audience, method, process, and story, so that it kind of makes sense. But again, I'm not your business. You have to kind of decide that for yourself, what's really important for you. But take each of these 3 elements from each of the AMPS, put them into a flight plan, and we've got our plan. And as I've said before, it's not in a straight line, and that's the point. It's never going to be in a straight line. So we have to understand that. We have to put specific dates. What is the timeline for each of these specific elements as well? So the action, prioritize each of the 12 power triangle elements for you, place them in order on the flight plan building blocks with an action, and add an estimated date to finish by. Pretty easy, right? That gives you your digital expedition. So what else is important here? Basecamp number 9, rather, timing and targeting your digital expedition. And in this case, vectors are everything. We talked earlier about when are you prepared to take action, right? Are you going to do it early? Are you going to wait? Or is it going to be too late to actually do that? And the reason why, and I've showed you sort of in that curve coming down, we have to decide when is it that we're going to, start that curve coming up in the other direction as well. Now, if you look at flying, I used to fly in the Air Force many years ago, and one of the things that we need to look at is that the problem actually becomes bigger and quicker as you progress down that runway. So you think you're going on a nice flight, but guess what? That takeoff point is very, very critical. As you move down, as the time increases, the obstacle actually goes up. The obstacle becomes bigger. So if you're looking at it from, let's see if I can draw this. So we're kind of flying or down the runway kind of thing, and there's some trees at the end like that. As we progress down the runway, that's a horrible looking airplane. But as we progress down the runway, because the next scene is here, we're actually those trees, and they shouldn't be right at the end of the runway. Obviously, we've learned our lesson there, but we're a little bit further. Okay, we're here now. Those trees are bigger. And I know it's common sense, but this is exactly what happens to businesses. Okay, we think we're going somewhere, but these barriers, these obstacles are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger the longer we wait to actually engage upon them. So if we're waiting extra time to be able to do this, guess what? Not only are we slipping down that slope, but the obstacle is getting bigger as well. So we need to be very, very aware of that. So when we're at the end, guess what? Those trees are pretty darn big, and we're not going to make it. So we've already passed the point where we can't abort our landing, or our takeoff rather. So where are we going to go? Into the bush. The other thing that's really important is what I call the 1 degree. Okay, so if we're looking at what does 1 degree look like? Like if you think about it, it's 1/360th of a circle. It's very small, like that's not a lot. But the thing is that over time and over distance, that becomes massive. And there's a rule of thumb in flying that for every 60 kilometers forward, if we're 1 degree off course, we're going to be 1 kilometer off course. And again, substitute miles or whatever the case you want to use for that. So for something short, guess what? It's not a big deal. You travel 60 kilometers in an airplane. If you're 1 degree off, you look down and instead of the airport being here, it's a kilometer over. It's like, okay, I can fly over there. I'll just get ATC air traffic control clearance and away I go. If you're flying from Sydney to LA, which would be nice to do nowadays, 1 degree off, if this is your pathway, right? 1 degree off, you're never going to land in Los Angeles. You might land in San Diego, you might land up in Canada, you might land in Mexico. Okay. And if that's where you wanted to go, cool. But for the majority of us, that's not where we wanted to go. I bought a ticket to Los Angeles. I want to be in Los Angeles. I don't want to be in Mexico. I don't want to be in Canada. So we need to be able to understand that this is really important, that we need to know that this 1 degree over small distances, it's not bad. It's decent, right? We've got this huge margin, but as that 1 degree gets longer and longer and longer, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So we need to make these changes regularly. We need to understand that, again, we might have to adjust our course slightly over here and then over here and then over here as well. But guess what? We have the general point that, hey, we're going Sydney to LA. It's the airplane doesn't fly in a straight line. It makes corrections all the time. We just don't necessarily always notice them, or sometimes you might feel it going this way and that. And the reason is they need to navigate. They need to correct for the curvature of the earth. They need to correct for winds. They need to correct for traffic. They need to correct for, everything that's out there. But as a business, we don't always realize that. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to drive Sydney to Melbourne, and away I go, and boom, I'm there, kind of thing. Guess what? You can do that, but for the majority of businesses, you can't. You really need to start to plan that out and how you can actually move forward going forward as well. So Basecamp number 10 is what I call your digital challenge. So we've got 3 key steps here, again, always going up the summit and back again. But we need to look at, where are we right now? Where are you right now? So what aspects do you have of your business that you like? I talked about clarity, certainty, and competencies. You can actually take a look and see, where are you in those specific spaces as well. And it's really important, because once we know where we are, we can help decide where we're going to go, or how we're going to get there, or what we're going to do to get there as well. And then we decide, where are we going to go, right? Where are we going? How will I get there? What equipment do I need? What tools, what teams, what processes, what resources do I have at my capability to be able to grab and use and implement? So where are you going? How will you get there? We need to start thinking a lot more clear about this. What teams, tools, and tactics do you need as well? So pretty simple questions, right? You can answer those now. I'd love to hear, if you have a chance. Again, put it in the chat, put it in #replay. What is your digital challenge as well? Where are you right now? Where are you going? How will you get there? What team, tools, and tactics do you need? And let's expand this as well. And I talked about experiments too. We can expand it into digital experiments rather, if we sort of know that pathway that we're on. If we're trying something and it's like not related, it's not within our competencies. Actually, I'll draw that a little bit better. I love Venn diagrams, right? So if it's not within our competencies, our certainty, and that sort of thing, our certainty. Actually, that color doesn't work very well. All right, so our certainty, our clarity. It's been a long session. We're almost ready to wrap up. Clarity and competency. Yes, that's the one. Okay, we can experiment, and that's what's important, but it has to be within this realm of our reality. So it has to be within the realm of getting clarity, getting certainty, getting our competencies as well. If it's out here, an experiment is pointless. If it's over here, pointless, right? If it's over here, it's pointless. Okay, any experiment that you run has to be within that framework of, how does it help me get clarity, how does it help me get certainty, and how does it help me get competency as well. So again, the 3 questions that we talked about earlier: where are you right now? Where are you going? What team, tools, tactics do you need? But let's actually ask the next questions as well. What are you going to test? How will you measure success? And where are the base camps of your business? I've written the ones that are good for businesses who want to leverage that digital opportunity for them. What are your base camps? Do you have 10? Do you have 20? Do you have 5? It doesn't really matter, but you need to map that out and say, this is the journey that I'm going to take my audience on. This is how I'm going to get them there. All right. And so let's finish off here. So congratulations. You are now the new digital CEO. And that's what I call the CEO, the Chief Expedition Officer, right? Giving you the tools and the knowledge and the certainty and the clarity and the competency to say, this is the path that we're on. This is where we're going. This is how we're going to get there. This is the resources that we're going to use. Looking at as an expedition, right? An expedition. How do I get my team here? But how do I get them there? How do I get them from starting point? Expedition or a safari. Which one are you, right? Safari. Let's just go down and watch the lions and tigers and see what happens. We're not going to actually do anything. So this is doing, and this is just watching. So which one are you going to do? As the digital CEO, you can do that. All right. So in terms of where are you right now, this is where I'm actually giving you a free paperback copy. So if you go to leadership.digital, I'll mail you a paperback copy, not an ebook. You'll also get an ebook as well for watching this and registering as well. So if you would like a paperback copy, go to leadership.digital. This will help you define where you are right now, and this will help you sort out what specific competencies, how do I get to clarity, and how do I get to certainty as well. And a printed digital expedition worksheet also. So, all right, cool. So if it was helpful, please like and share. If you're in the replay, #replay, please leave a comment as well or tag me in the post as well. If you have any questions, please reach out. Doyle at Depth Digital as well. And honestly, on all social, just search for Doyle Bueller and you'll find me there, and feel free to follow as well. There are some additional resources as well that I mentioned at the beginning. If you go to bit.ly/digital expedition resources, you can download the cheat sheet, the PDF copy of the book, and there's some other resources as well. So, all right. So without further ado, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. I know we had a little bit of a hiccup there, but was able to get things back on board and going as well. So really appreciate your patience. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing and commenting as well. And we will see you online.